Hey guys, welcome back to Art with Mr. A. Today we're going to dive right into creating a two-point perspective bedroom drawing. Now last time you joined me, you might have seen the one-point perspective bedroom that we created, and we'll pull that out in a second. But right now I'm starting off with a ruler drawing a horizon line and two vanishing points at the edges of my paper. Here's my original drawing, but we're going to draw it from the point of view of facing that back left corner that I just outlined. So that's a vertical line to start with. The vertical line should be in the middle of the paper, not too long, but crossing that horizon line. And then it's going to extend from the bottom to the first vanishing point on the left. Now taking the top line, we'll extend that all the way to the edge of the paper, similarly. And then we'll actually take it from the second vanishing point through those edges. Now you'll notice the difference between the two is that this one has two vanishing points and two types of converging lines. Now, the converging lines are any lines that go to a vanishing point, but this is going to help us out and understand what's changing in the drawing. As you notice, we're facing the back wall in the first point perspective video, but now we're facing that corner, so we've slightly turned our perspective in this room. So I'm counting out what was the floorboards in the other drawing, and you'll see that those are now going to extend from a right vanishing point, where in the past, that vanishing point was right in the center of the drawing. So it'll make a little bit more sense as we get going here, but using the same principles, I'm using that set of converging lines going to the right vanishing point. It'll create a sense of depth immediately in this room. Once that's finished up, though, I'm going to be moving on to some other forms that'll enhance this room, and we'll really be able to tell something else about it. The windows serve that purpose. Using vertical lines on the farthest left side, I'm going to use that line just like I did at the beginning for that corner of the wall to connect to my right vanishing point. This is going to be a theme. If something is on, they say, that left wall, it's probably going to connect with the right vanishing point. It's kind of a strange concept. You'll get the rhythm of this eventually, but what you'll see me doing now is I want to transfer the measurements of this window to the other edge. Now I basically wrapped that line around the corner, and you see me using the left vanishing point for mapping where the window is going to be on the right wall. So there's some opposite action going on here, but what's neat about this is if you stick with the program, you're going to be able to create excellent and very consistent illusions every time if you just trust the process. Now what I've done is I've mapped out these rectangles on the wall. What we haven't done yet is make them look like windows, or we haven't really cut them out of the wall. You'll remember in the last point we have some depth or a cutaway from the actual thickness of the wall, and that's what we're going to construct, but we can't use just any old lines. We have to use those corners and create converging lines to the appropriate vanishing point. Right now I'm going to the right vanishing point. Essentially any line that extends in that direction is going to follow that, but I still have to use the other vanishing point on the left to continue around. So it's just extend your logic. But the thing is, even if you guess, it's a pretty good odds that you're going to guess correctly if you limit yourself to the choices. It comes down to this. You can either draw a vertical line or converging lines. What's left is you just have to decide which vanishing point it's going to go to. Even if you guess wrong, you got a 50-50 chance after you miss it the first time. It's really not that difficult once you trust the process and just go for it. Hey, what's the worst that could happen? You waste a little money on an eraser. No big deal. Finishing up these windows here, I'm cleaning up some of the edges to make it look like we're actually looking through those windows. But the shelving unit below that left window is kind of going to be a little bit more complex, especially because those shelves, like we're looking directly into the shelves now. I started off with kind of its footprint up against that wall. It's a rectangle following the vanishing points, but now I need to push it out into the room. So I'm taking that left vanishing point and extending lines through each corner of that wall print over there, whatever we call it. I'm extending this out. You'll see that these things kind of magically map through there. They'll match up. But we'll notice about this drawing, and it's kind of just like a chance, is that if you think about this left edge of that cabinet, what you're going to notice is all these lines kind of stack up on top of each other. It's kind of a coincidence, but if you think about it from a perspective of, if you take a piece of paper, if you look at it from the front, it's going to seem pretty large. But if I look at it from the edge on, the thing is you're going to miss a lot of that. You're not going to be able to see the whole size of the piece. So that's what's happening there. We just have to add the new shelves in there. We're going to divide it up into 2 new shelves across that front face, and the vanishing point is going to help us do that. But those new intersections are going to drive directly to the left vanishing point. Now, what that represents is that these shelves are flat, they're horizontal. A good test to see is like if you were to put like a ball on that, if you could imagine a ball on the shelf, you wouldn't want it to roll off. So that's a good way to test to see if you're on the right track. Now the bed, we spent some time on that now, but we may actually not be able to see all the details that we were able to put in last time because of our new perspective. I started off with the height of the bed, stemming up from where the floor meets the wall, and extended it into a rectangle. The new corners are basically targets for my vanishing point on the right. I extended out into the room and using another line at that intersection where the floor meets the wall. It's a really important one to track so I can add this height right here. It almost looks like an L into the room. We're then going to add another side right through those new intersections and wrap this thing around. Now you might think it looks weird to start off with, but once we start erasing what we can see like through this thing, you're going to start to see the illusion of depth. Now we put some work into describing where the feet of the bed meet the floor and as well as that headboard, but it seems like it's out of view for us because it's kind of behind the actual perspective that we're looking at. So I'm putting that actual bottom of the bed, those lines in to describe that separation. And then we're going to move on to the more complex part. Now, as I mentioned, we're going to have to erase some stuff, but it's kind of helpful to leave it right now. What I'm doing is I kind of created a square using the vanishing points. Think about it as a footprint of where that thing would actually touch the floor. And I'm describing that with the vanishing point. It's not always necessary to finish it up, but it's a good habit to be in to be exactly sure where all these lines map out. Well, what's left? We just have some details that are going to make this thing look especially nice. First, let's erase some of those things that we can't see. Unless this bed was made out of glass, some kind of aquarium bed, we wouldn't be seeing these lines. And I think we'd be thankful that it's not made out of glass so we wouldn't wake up in pain. But what's left, we're going to wrap that sheet around there. We have to add the pillow and then look for any opportunities to clean up any lines we may have forgot to erase. So if I kind of zoom in here, I'm going to look at that leg. We can't see through it. So we're not going to leave that outline, but kind of erase the footprint that we spent some time doing. Now all that's left is to kind of look at the one-point perspective drawing and see if there's any details we need. We mentioned that bed sheet and the pillow, those are pretty easy because we're going to pull those from the right vanishing point. And then use 2 vertical lines to wrap that around the edge. Probably would have made it a little thicker if I had done it again. But then we need to think about that pillow. We can't really see the full thing, but we're still going to make some guidelines with that vanishing point on the left and then swing over the other line with kind of that soft rounded shape there. I'm just approximating it. Anything softer that doesn't have straight edges, you're going to have to kind of use your judgment on. But we just clean up any lines that we might see. Oh, some on that shelf over there. I'm going to erase those. By the way, this eraser pencil is like the best tool ever. So if you ever struggle with some nasty eraser marks that you're out of control with, this is a really great tool to use. Really thin, firm eraser. But beyond that, we could look at the other drawing, take a look at some of the details that we're missing out on. I think we're mainly just looking at the sky here. Show some really nice depth. Those flat bottomed clouds, as we mentioned before, the farther they get away, the smaller they are, right? But if you think about clouds, they kind of float on like an ocean of air. So like the bottoms a lot of times are kind of flat. Add the sun. We couldn't see the sun from the other point of view. This is kind of a neat thing. You can show how that angle of rotation in the picture by changing our perspective will allow us to see new things. So I think this one turned out great. If we compare it to our original, we're actually able to see some of the same features but in a different way. And that's what's unique about art. We always have a new perspective. If you enjoyed this video, stay tuned every Sunday and Wednesday for new art videos. And don't forget to hit subscribe and enable notifications. Catch you later.